Okay, our next disease is called leishmaniasis, and the organism is Trypanosoma gambians. If you notice, this one and the next one are from the same genus, Trypanosoma. We actually have quite a few on here that are from that same genus. This one is the sandfly, and in certain parts of the country, especially South America, in the sand, they have these flies that carry this particular protist. When the sandfly bites you, so the sandfly is the vector that also makes this a zoonotic disease. When the sandfly bites you, what happens is you get a red area around the bite, and the skin becomes very sore, and it eventually starts um, eroding away. The tissue becomes necrotic. Necrotic means it dies, it turns black, and starts to fall away from the skin. Sandflies are not in this part of the country. Usually, South America is where you find them. This is not a self limiting protist, but because it is caused by the sandfly, they can control the vector. So there has been many methods of controlling the sandfly in those parts of the country, and it has kept this disease down to a minimum. All right, our next one is sleeping sickness, and this is Trypanosoma brucei. Again, make sure that you are underlining these words, their scientific names. They have to be spelled correctly. The tsetse fly is one that carries this disease, and sleeping sickness is not something we have in this part of the country. It's more Africa. The tsetse fly is the vector. It's also a zoonotic disease, and it's a very large fly. I don't know if you know how big a horsefly is, but it's big like a horsefly. Go on YouTube, look up horsefly, or go on the internet, it doesn't matter, and just type in tsetse fly, and it'll show you the size of the fly. They're really pretty big. This one, now sleeping sickness means you do go fall into a coma. You're not just asleep, you're not going to be able to wake up. So, some of the symptoms with this one is it starts out with people feel very weak, they start running a fever, and they get lethargic. And lethargic and fatigue are more than just you're sleepy. It means you really can't put one foot in front of the other. You have a hard time getting out of bed. And eventually you're going to be very lethargic. You won't know where you are, um, and you're going to fall into a coma. Once people fall into the coma, there's no waking up from this. So, palliative care, they have to treat the symptoms. They're going to have feeding tubes. They're going to have catheters for them to use the bathroom. They're going to have help with people turning them over, because people who lay on their backs in their coma, the blood pools in their backs and they get skin sores. So there's going to have to be a lot of around the clock care. Also, because they are asleep, they're not able to eat and take nourishment. So they're going to have feeding tubes. We don't have the tsetse fly. This is in usually remote parts of Africa. There's not a lot of good medical care in some of those remote areas. If you are in Africa, in Johannesburg or one of the big cities, and you've been bitten by a tsetse fly, then obviously it's pretty easy to get care, and you can go to the hospital. They recognize the signs and you can get treatment. Again, we're dealing with a protist, so it's not going to be taking an antibiotic. You're going to have to take something that is going to have to kill living tissue. This protist is alive, and it's going to be in a human that is alive. So there's a very fine line in between killing this protist and killing the person that has it. Sometimes you'll hear the statement, well, the cure was worse than the disease. That usually applies to anything that is living and parasitic. Because all of these can cause disease, all of these protists are parasitic. It's good for the parasite, for the protist. They're getting shelter and they're also getting food, but it is not good for the host. And the host is going to be who is actually harboring the protist, which in this case is the trypanosoma protist. So the vector is going to be either the sandfly or the tsetse fly. It is zoonotic because it's being transferred by an animal, but it's also not self limiting. They're going to have to be treated and hopefully get treated in time, because once you get a really bad infestation, sometimes people harbor these protists in their system for years and they lay dormant for a while, especially going back to the amoebas. I do have a couple of students that picked up the amoeba, different kinds of amoeba, from eating from bag salads, and those kids still have that amoeba. And what they have to do is when their immune system gets really low, these amoeba start acting up and it causes them to get sick again. But their doctors have told them you're just going to have this, probably all your life, because we can't get rid of it. There's no way of treating it. So be very careful. Again, we don't have the sandfly or the tsetse fly. Not a problem in America, but definitely problematic in those areas. Now that you have gone over 4 of these, pick one, and do some research on it. Write me a paragraph about the particular disease and the protist, and try to include some information that we have not included here. Get that submitted to me by tomorrow morning. So you should be looking at this and writing this assignment on Tuesday. I want this assignment by 8 a.m. on Wednesday.